Good afternoon. I'm Counselor Knutson, and I would like to call our weekly informational together for Monday, May 12th. And we are going to have a fairly abbreviated meeting today because we have another event for our outgoing city councilors and our incoming city councilors. So regardless of where we are in the program, about 4:30, I'm going to try to persuade you to adjourn for this week, and we'll pick up all those important topics next week. I would be remiss to not say on behalf of all of the city councilors and our entire community, we do thank Councilor Kavanaugh and Councilor Jameson for their incredible work at this job. I think you almost have to do this job to really realize what sacrifices those two have made to serve, and we wish you both the very best. At this point, we will I'm going to see, are there any committee reports that any of you would like to give today? Okay. All right. We're going to, again, and because we have such an important topic to be discussed today, called Permanent Supportive Housing Opportunity. It's a wonderful opportunity, in my opinion, by Randy Bartunik, Director of Community Development, and Councilor Brown has served as a member of the Homeless Advisory Board from the very beginning and may want to add well, he can add as much as he wishes. He's worked very hard in this area for us, and we are also very pleased to have Hugh Grogan with us from the county and other great county people that help the homeless. So, Randy, go ahead, please. I'm sorry I'm jabbering.
Thank you. Randy Bartunik, Director of Community Development. Thank you for allowing me the time this afternoon to brief you on a potential opportunity for the city. I want to start out by just reminding you last February, the Homeless Advisory Board presented some information in a business plan to the council, and a couple items in the business plan that were of importance as far as the findings was the fact that they identified 30 individuals who need a home as well as intensive supportive service, and these are the individuals that typically are referred to as the chronic homeless. In addition, there was another 64 who also need a home, but only general supportive services. So these may be individuals that don't have as severe issues that maybe the 30 do. The 30 typically will be people that have got the dual diagnosed drug and alcohol and as well as mental illness issues. We have an opportunity that has arisen where the city can acquire a federally owned property that is being surplused. It's at 1800 West Russell, and it's known as the Jonas H. Lean Building, and it's currently being used as a training center for the Army and Navy Reserve. Army and Navy Reserve are in the process of building a new facility and will be moving out. This opportunity is actually available through some federal legislation, specifically through the Stuart B. McKinney Homeless Assistance Act, which gives authority to Health and Human Services to transfer declared federal surplus real estate to states, units of local government, and nonprofits. And the transfer of these facilities would be used for public health and homeless purposes. There is a requirement that if the properties are transferred for a 30-year commitment. And the best thing about this is that there is no cost for the transfer. The city has an opportunity to pick up the land and the building without cost. The use of the facility would be for permanent supportive housing. There's two requirements for that, and the first one is that it must be provided as long-term affordable housing. Long-term means no time limit to residency. It is, I guess the thing I want to stress, it is not a shelter like the shelters that we have. It is permanent housing, so again, they can stay there without any type of time limitation, and it would be a rental unit just like others would rent units across the city. Term affordable means that generally tenants pay no more than 30% of annual income towards rent. And the second requirement is that as part of the use, it must be linked to appropriate supportive health and social services, meaning that services for substance abuse, mental health, case management, and medical case services. And just a little bit about the building. The total space listed in the Federal Register is just shortly or a little bit over 33,000 square foot. And that consists of 3 brick structures, of which 2 of them are connected with the walkway. And those Two are used as office training areas. The buildings that have the office training areas also has a full kitchen and dining room in it. The second structure is a garage maintenance shop, and these facilities were constructed in 1959. The land that the buildings sit on is an area of about 400 by 600 square foot, or about 400 by 600 foot, for about a total of 240,000 square foot. And in checking with a local real estate broker in town here and some recent land sales in that area, the comparables in that area have been going for about $5 per square foot. So if you look at the land value alone, we'd have a land value of approximately $1.2 million. Those of you that are not familiar with the facility, we've got a few slides here. This is a view of the east wing looking northwest. It's the east wing again facing northeast. West wing facing northeast. And the east wing, as you saw in the photograph, is a one-story structure. The west wing is actually 2 levels. West wing again facing southeast. And this is the garage maintenance facility at the back of the lot. Kind of a preliminary review of the facility. We're anticipating that we could probably get about 30 to 35 single-room occupancy units out of it. When we have more, if we are going to proceed with this, we'll be working with an architect engineer to maximize the facility. So if there's an opportunity to gain more units or to even develop units where there's 2 people to a room, we may do some of that, but that's going to be part of the programming that we'll be working on as we go forward. Some of the major renovations to include roofing, needs a new heating and cooling system, window replacement, floor coverings, bathrooms, and then some other interior wall renovations. Worked with a local architect, and we did not have them do a detailed estimate on it because the estimate would have cost us about $30,000 and would have taken about 2 months to complete, so we didn't have time for that. But based on their review of the plans and hearing what we're proposing here, they're feeling that the cost would be about $2.6 million. They do feel that this cost would be on the high side, so we're optimistic or hoping that it would be below that number. On the supportive services side, preliminary estimated budget for annual costs for operating and providing basic supportive services and programs, about $550,000. Hugh Grogan is here, so after I've completed the presentation, he can give you more detailed information regarding the supportive services and also talk about some of the success that they're seeing with their Project Safe Home. Current status of where we're at with the facility, I did request and receive an application that we do need to complete and submit to HUD if we're going to proceed with the project. There's an application deadline of May 28th. And I have requested a 30-day extension, and I'm still waiting for a response on that. And I had called on Friday, and I've been told that there's sometimes where they don't actually provide a written response back on it, but if we do not hear that, it's actually an automatic grant of the extension. So I'm very optimistic that we're going to be able to get that. Some of the application requirements will require a resolution by both the city and the county if the county is involved through a partnership. We do need to prepare a program description of the proposed renovations along with plans showing the physical layout of the facility. Need to prepare a time schedule for the renovations through the completions. One of the requirements by HUD as a part of the project, if the property is transferred, that it does need to be completed within 36 months of the actual transfer. We need to identify the number of homeless persons to be assisted. Need to estimate the number of support staff, provide a detailed narrative on the proposed supporting and training programs, and identify supportive services which require accreditation. And what I'm talking about there, when you get into chemical dependency treatment, some of those organizations do require certification and accreditation with various agencies. So if they end up being part of the programs or a partner in this, we do need to provide HUD with information regarding their accreditation. One of the big things for HUD is that they need to have proof of the ability to finance and operate the facility. They will not approve an application with contingencies in it or in the hope that we're going to get funding. We do need to move ahead and be committed to the project if we're going to do this. And the last item would be the insurance provisions to maintain the property until it's actually transferred. Some of the things that HUD will be looking at in the review, first off, is that as a part of the review of the application, once they receive it, they actually will respond within 25 days to us, and they may be requesting additional information, or the application would be reviewed and approved. We got 4 items there that they will look at. They'll look at other things, but these are probably the 4 of the major items. Again, looking at the services offered, including the extent and range of the services, such as meals, job training, counseling. They'll look at the community need and the degree to which the property will be fully utilized. Again, for example, if based on the size of the facility, if we're proposing going in there and only using half of the building, I would guess that our chances of actually being successful in the application would be fairly low. They also look at previous experience and success in running similar programs, and again, the ability to run and operate the facility. The financial ability to run and operate the facility. Some of the restrictions and conditions that we would have to follow is, again, the facility must be utilized in accordance with the approved application, so we could not go in and state one thing in the application and then change the use in 3, 4, or 5 years down the line. Already mentioned this next one. If we are approved, we actually have to have the facility in operation within 36 months. Cannot have any subleases or encumbrances. We need to provide annual utilization reports. Must comply with all applicable laws and authorities. And whoever the successful applicant is must remain either tax supported, or if it's a nonprofit, they must remain tax exempt. And what's next is that we need to identify the funding options for both the capital cost and the operating. This will need to be done by both the county and the city if this is going to be undertaken as a joint cooperative agreement. Some of the things that we are looking at is possible consideration whether banks would be interested in providing a low-interest amortized bank loan for the capital costs as a part of their CRA requirements. So if we're looking at $2.6 million, maybe we could be looking at annual costs for that somewhere around the $250,000 to $275,000 per year. We need to prepare and complete a joint cooperative agreement, again, as if this is something that the city and the county will do together. We need to complete the application and the other required attachments, and the application is fairly extensive. There are a lot of requirements that go with that. And then ultimately we would need a approval of a resolution by the council and the county commission, and I'm just kind of anticipating a time schedule that we'd probably be targeting somewhere around June 2nd or June 9th. And with that, a lot of information in a fairly quick manner, but if you got any questions, I'd be more than happy to answer that. Otherwise, like I said, I've got Hugh Grogan here on the program cost.
Thank you, Randy. Councilor Staggers has a question.
Yeah, Randy, I have a quick question about how long have we known about this building being available for this?
I actually received a call from our local HUD office who had let me know that it was actually listed in the Federal Register.
And when was that?
I got the call, I believe, in mid-February.
Mid-February?
Yes.
I guess my question is, it looks like we're coming down to a deadline here kind of fast. I guess just why weren't we notified maybe a little bit earlier?
Well, one of the things, first off, when I was notified, I actually had to submit an actual written request for an application. I received the application in early March, and then just looking through the information required on the application so I could get a handle on what this is all about. It's kind of a case where if it's too good to be true or there's strings, I wanted to become as familiar with the project as I could. Also in hopes to get as much information beforehand so that as I'm presenting to you today, including operating costs and renovation costs, I wanted to gather that information beforehand, and that's what we've been working on.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions for Randy Bartunek at this point? Okay, thank you very much for all the efforts you've made so far on this. And I'm sorry, Councilor Jameson has a question, Randy, for you.
I'm not going to be around to vote on it, but I got to ask the question. You must have a recommended method of funding this. What are you planning?
Actually, I do not. I've been working with finance, and we're looking at options, I guess. One of the things that it's probably going to come down to is, again, through a joint cooperative agreement, whether the city and the county share in the operating costs as far as identifying where the operating costs are coming from. I do not have that. Like I said, we've not had a lot of opportunity or a lot of time to work on this. As far as the capital cost, one of the things like I said, we're looking at is seeing if we can get a bank loan that's amortized either at no or low interest to spread those costs out over 10 years or so to lower the need to come up with a lot of cash up front.
It appears you've identified 90 people or 94 people that are in need of permanent housing. And if I heard you correctly, you're only looking at 30 to 35 rooms in this
That's
facility?
potentially what the facility could hold if we're looking at all separate individual rooms. One of the things that as I briefly mentioned, when we go forward and start working on the program detail in more depth, we could possibly be looking at maybe having a block of rooms, maybe 8, where you actually have double occupancy. And maybe those are the people that are more the hardcore that don't like to follow the rules. You put them into the double occupancy rooms and give them an opportunity to work up to a single room. But again, that's just a concept. That's something as we move forward, I think the Homeless Advisory Board and certainly input with the county will have to kind of talk about those things as to what actually makes sense.
Thank you.
Councilor Brown.
If I could just follow up for Councilor Jameson, too, there are different degrees of needs, and those first 30 are what we consider the most hardcore chronic homeless that would need permanent supportive housing. The other 64 have lesser needs, and Hugh can probably get into that in his presentation.
Thank you for that addition comment. Mr. Grogan, please, and welcome.
Good afternoon, council members. I do have a couple of informational things.
Do you want to introduce yourself?
Hugh Grogan from the Minnehaha County Department of Human Services, and I do have an informational packet that I'll pass out to you. And Alex Sherbeck is doing that with me. He's been a student intern in our office, so we make him do all the hard work. What I wanted to touch base with you on is just that what we've been doing with Project Safe Home, and Safe Home is the model for what we're looking at as we go forward as a community. And if you go back a couple years, you remember that we had some real issues in the community about how we were going to serve people that were really chronically homeless with chemical dependency issues who had a hard time accessing the various shelters in town, especially after we lost the availability of the Salvation Army program. And so what I passed out to you are a couple of items that I thought would be of interest to you. The first is a summary sheet that I provided to the county commissioners about where we are with Project Safe Home right now. And my department is operating a program that's serving 20 people. We've got 10 people in on-site housing, that's in county buildings. We've got 10 people that we've got in scatter sites throughout the community. We have another 10 people, and this is the group of 30 that Councilman Vernon Brown was talking about. We're tracking what our expenses are with that group. The people that we targeted are the ones who are the most difficult to serve in the community and the people that have a really hard time accessing the shelters that are currently available because of drinking-related issues. And we got into this not knowing exactly what to expect or how well it would run. We know that when we looked at the research nationally, people have had success across the country with serving this population, and we found that same thing with the program that we've embarked on. We've been really impressed with the response of the people that we're serving, and the people that we're serving are some of the people that if you walk around on the streets at all, you'll be familiar with, and they're some of the hardest people in our community to serve. So that first sheet is a kind of a summary to our county commissioners. It talks about some preliminary costs that we've got. Now, in the study that we did earlier, and I attached that for your review, I've got the 2005, and this is from the study that we did in 2005 of the cost to the community of this group of people. And for the 11 people, it was $338,000, and we were spending $30,000 plus on each person. And each of these folks was also homeless. So through our emergency service systems, whether that be the jail, the detox, hospital ER rooms, we were spending lots of money, and yet we still had people on the streets. And the premise is that with a housing first model, that we can get people housed, some of the drinking issues begin to stabilize, if not be reduced, and we get success at reducing some of those other costs, particularly things like ER, things like repetitive admissions to detox, and things like that. We've actually started putting people into our program back in September, but we weren't fully operational with both the scatter site and the on-site ones till January. So our figures, we're only using our figures from January going forward. We've seen tremendous success at detox. We've had 148 days of admissions during that period of time from that group of 20, but 91 of those days were from 3 people. So overall, we're seeing people who were in detox. They were used to seeing them every week or even multiple times in a week, who haven't been in there during that whole period of time. So we're, at least initially, really feel that we're on the right track with what we're doing. That breakdown of chronic shows the breakdown also between the city and the county on the percentage of costs and other entities in the community. The third thing that I passed out was just for your information, and that's because there's been questions raised to me in the community about why can't the county be doing this, and is the county carrying its weight for what its responsibility is to the poor? And so what I passed out to you is a copy of the expenditures statewide for county poor relief, and in that bottom under state total, that's all 66 counties in the state, but I've just pulled out the top 10, but if you add those up, they won't be the same as the bottom numbers, because the bottom numbers include all 66. That will show you the difference in how county commissions approach their responsibilities for poor and indigent people. 84% of all the money that's spent in South Dakota is spent in Minnehaha County by counties on poor relief. We represent about 20% of the state's population, and for the reported homeless, we represent about 63%. But we feel that's because our reporting and our counting is a lot more aggressive here, and we find people better than we might in other areas. But that will give you a sense of what the county has put on the table, and I think part of what we're looking at the county is between the services we provide to families to keep them from being evicted or to get them into housing, and the singles, the population that we're serving, both the working folks and also the folks that we're serving through this program. In 2007, we spent $950,000, at the county level, and that's all local property tax dollars. When you look at the numbers, the next closest county is Pennington County, and for that same population, they spent $45,000. So that will give you, I just wanted to give you a sense of where the county's been and the county commission in terms of the commitments they've had. And I think as I've talked to our county commissioners about this, they've been really, they're really excited at the prospect that, the city has brought to the table with this building, but also have a concern about what the county's ability is because of its limited tax base to raise funds on an ongoing basis. And really, from our perspective, is looking for a joint partnership with the city and the county, if as this program, if it goes forward, as it goes forward, that it be a joint 50-50 partnership.
Councilor Staggers?
Yeah, I guess I have a concern about the joint program because with the health and welfare building, the city got stuck with 75% of the costs of that. With this program here, we're going to have a situation where city taxpayers are using, city tax money to fund this, but then also as county taxpayers, the citizens of Sioux Falls are going to be also paying in. So in other words, the citizens of Sioux Falls are going to get taxed twice for this, whereas the citizens outside of Sioux Falls, just in Minnehaha County, are taxed once. I guess I'm concerned about that inequity.
Although when you look outside our community, many of the people that live in the outlying communities work in Sioux Falls, spend their money in Sioux Falls, and a lot of the resources that we raise in Sioux Falls are from various taxes that we've got on items that are sold and that kind of thing. So in a sense, people will be contributing. On the property tax side, it will be just the city person will be seeing expenditures both on the city side or potentially and on the county side.
Yeah, but once again, we're going to be, the citizens of Sioux Falls will pay for this through the city taxes and also through the taxes the county has on us. Within the county, people that live outside the city just pay once.
And I understand that.
And that doesn't seem fair at all for the citizens of Sioux Falls.
Well, and I guess I'm not in a position to really, come up with solutions other than to say that, with the graph that I passed out, our county commissioners are so far ahead of any other place in the state in terms of the money they put on the table, that to put big amounts of additional monies on the table for this project will be real difficult if it's just to come from the county.
Have we asked the nonprofits to really take part in this?
We're looking at, as we go forward, and this is, as this building became available, it caused us to move forward faster than we had planned. I've also got Stacy Teason, who's the coordinator jointly between the city and the county for the Homeless Advisory Board, and we've got a business plan that we presented to both bodies, and in that we did talk about a program that we would set up and that we would target money to build a facility that would serve the population we're talking about. And both the city council and the county commissioners have endorsed that proposal. It was a smaller project. That was before this building was available, and we were talking about a facility that would serve maybe 24 people. This gives us the opportunity to increase the number of people that get served.
Also, I have just one other quick question. This would be the last one. The 2005 expenses for the 11 chronics. I guess I'm a little concerned here that we're focusing on the 11 people that are most worse off to make the numbers look worse than by taking a look at all the chronic homelessness themselves.
And what we did and how we our program operates on nickels and dimes and pennies at the county level, and so we were tasked with an objective to try to identify what the costs were in the community. We went to detox and jail and some of those systems and tried to find the 10 top users of those systems. We added one person so that if we lost anybody, we'd at least have 10 people that we were working with by the end. And the intent was that we would identify, and those are just users in and out of the system. Commissioner Brown talked about the 30 that we've identified, the 20 additional ones. Of that group of 20, I know that there are people in that group of 20 who we've incurred more expenditures than these amounts with. And that's because the people that we're talking about are generally people who are have chronic chemical dependency issues. They've been homeless, in and out of homeless, not for 2 or 3 years, but for many, many years. And they're really 40 and above, and so they have compromised health care, or compromised health systems. And I can think of a couple people right off the hand where if they had been in the list, we would have jacked up our costs just by the $60,000 and $70,000 hospital bills that we were seeing on those guys that would have tremendously distorted the list. And so our group of 11 was, because that was what we could work with in terms of generating the costs, but I don't think they're necessarily the most expensive ones. They were just the most frequent users of those two systems.
Councilor Brown.
And just to follow up for that too, Hugh, that we should touch on is that we know a common recurring theme in many communities is that 20%, the most chronic, are using 80% of the resources in the community. So it's important that we address this group first, and that's why we asked you to do that survey of the expenses.
Thank you. Would any of your others have any questions for Hugh Grogan at this time? And we're very close to being done for today.
What's the next step?
The next step, I think, for us as we go forward, and Randy may want to come forward on this, but I think we need the endorsement of both the city and the county to proceed with this. I think there's probably negotiations that need to go on between the city and the county in terms of who pays for what or how you break out some of those kinds of things. But we're really excited at the opportunity this project presents for us to really meet a need on an ongoing, a long-term basis. I don't know if that gave you that. For us to turn this around, we've got like 2 weeks, I think 3 weeks to get it submitted to the federal government.
Hugh, would you please, if you have extra packets, would you please share them with Mr. Anderson and Mr. Jameson out in the audience, who will be joining us next Monday at this time? And then would it be all right with the rest of you if we put this back on our agenda for next Monday at our informational? Would that be okay? Councilor Kavanaugh will come and be moderating the debate. Mm-hmm. Okay, let's, Jamie, would you please just add that to our agenda for next week, please? And because I do apologize that we are rushing you so much today, this opportunity has come up so recently, and if you haven't toured the building yet, please do so. And thank you very much. And Councilor Benica, sorry.
I'm sorry, Hugh. I just had a thought. On the expenditures that the county has, can you break down the number of people who you're serving for rent, utilities, food, and transportation?
I've got those breakdowns, but I didn't bring them with me.
If you could bring them
Yeah.
next week.
I will bring them with me.
The other thing I'd like to know in reference to those is how many of those, what those costs are direct expenses and what are indirect or fixed? So,
These are all direct, these are expenses that were made, these aren't any indirect costs. These are vouchers that were issued by the county to cover needs that people had. So people were getting their utilities disconnected, they were being evicted, or they were homeless families without shelter.
so there's no fixed costs in the
None of the
Dakota
when you're talking fixed, you're talking about staff costs and indirect costs. None of those are included. Those are all over and above this, and it doesn't include any of the medical side.
Okay.
The county also, much of the county's budget actually goes for medical expenditures. This is just what we call the subsistence side, so it shows what you're doing, what we're doing for rents and utilities, food and non-food items. And I think part of what we've had, part of the pressure we've faced is that as things have got tighter and tighter in the community, the demands, and I'm talking with the cost of gas and the cost of milk and the cost of eggs, we're just seeing more and more numbers of people coming in, not being able to make it and accessing services.
Hugh, will you please bring Stacy and Alex and Randy, would you please return next Monday? And thank you, Tam, for Baker, for being with us today. Again, a member of the Homeless Advisory Board, and I'm probably forgetting other Homeless Advisory Board members who are here. And I am going to adjourn our meeting for today, and thank you again.